City Council special meeting will come to order. This meeting was called by 3 council members, which is according to the rules of special meeting. The council members are members of the Finance Committee, which is Councilman Manson, Councilman Peters, and Councilman Slater. You all have copies of the ordinance. Roll call, please.
Tobin?
Here.
Cunningham Heatherly?
Present.
Alter?
Here.
Hampton?
Here.
Lewis?
Present.
Hanson?
Yes.
Peters?
Here.
Gaza?
Here.
And Slater?
Here.
Madam President, Mr. President.
Ordinance number 35.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Massillon to enter into an agreement between the city of Massillon, Downtown Massillon Hotel LTD, and Charles Street LTD, which would permit, if certain conditions are met, canceling the promissory note associated with the loan for the Hampton Inn project and release the related mortgages and any other liens related to the financing of the project.
Councilman Peters.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call Mr. Sturgis forward. Since he came, I want to make it worth his while. He'll come up to the-
Will, do you want me to
Yeah.
get the amendments that you did before?
Well, that's why I need to ask you.
Okay.
We've never done this kind of thing since I've been on council on as far as. Okay.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peters.
All right, my question is, Gary, if I have the legislation here which says, for the agreement as amended May 10th, 2013 with the Downtown Massillon Hotel. So this is the ordinance that we're going to bring forward. But do I have to make a motion to amend the previous ordinance?
I believe that you do because we ultimately ended up tabling the previous one until tonight,
Okay,
and I don't believe that it's been amended yet,
okay.
unless somebody remembers it different. I wrote down that it was tabled. Ultimately, I don't think we ever did the amendment. So,
No,
yes.
We did, because we were waiting for the contract, which I also have here.
Right.
And at the request of some other council members to put some teeth in this, that's why we did it. So,
Correct.
okay, all right, just wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing.
Okay.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, do I still have the floor?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we amend ordinance number 35, 2013 to, as just what the council clerk just read. That's exactly what we amended it to. You want me to read it for the record?
Yes, please. And do everyone have a copy of the amendments?
What Zoom will do, I don't know. No, that's the contract. The amendment is actually what I have in the ordinance form. Okay. I'll read it real quick. I'm just reading what Mary Beth just read. But this is what I'm amending it to. Please prepare legislation authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement as amended May 10th, 2013 with the Downtown Massillon Hotel LTD and Charles Street Associates LTD, which will cancel the promissory note in connection with the loan for the Hampton Inn project and release the related mortgages from the Downtown Massillon Hotel LTD and Charles Street Associates LTD and any other liens related to the financing of the project, see attached, which is the 2-page contract that was amended. So that's my motion to amend.
Any questions? Councilman Manson?
Second.
Second.
Got a roll call from that.
Roll call, please. Amendment of ordinance number 35.
Tobin?
Yeah.
Cunningham Heatherly?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Gaza?
Yes.
And Slater?
Yes.
And yes for the amendment.
That's it.
No, it goes back to first reading.
Okay. reading. Motion.
Okay, it's the first reading. After all the discussion we've had, I'm going to make a motion that we waive the rule requiring 3 separate readings and bring ordinance, the amended ordinance of 35, 2013 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilman Massillon. Roll call.
Any discussion?
Children,
I got a question. If it's just a one, I'd like to just have some comment on it. And, like I've been saying, I've been leaning towards passing this. I've been listening, but I haven't heard anything for a while. We've got Mr. Grevlin and Mr. Eline. I'd like to have the administration, the mayor, come up and, right there.
I think, to my understanding, once we make the motion,
Yeah, it's good.
it has to go for a vote.
He's right. So we just kind of move ahead, right?
Okay.
This is just a motion.
This is just a motion to waive the rule.
Children,
Yes.
Cunningham Heatherly,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Skazza,
Yes.
and Slater.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
For passage. Councilman Slagle, has a question.
Well, I don't think we should have some discussion on this before we pass it again.
Well, we are. Point of order.
Councilman Peters.
We just made the motion to waive the rule. The discussion will come now before the passage, and that's what Mr. Manson was alluding to. Did he just ask for something different?
Yes, I asked for passage.
Oh,
right?
no.
Because, to my understanding, once
No,
you.
discussion before passage, I totally disagree with you if you say anything different. I think we need discussion before taking a vote to pass.
Okay, go ahead and discuss it. You have a question?
Well, yeah, it was brought up to me, first of all, I wasn't going to vote for this legislation anyway for a number of reasons, not the least of which is someone who pays my mortgage. I find as a taxpayer, I just can't support anything on someone who doesn't pay the mortgage. But in discussions with one of our constituents recently, he brought up an interesting point that we have to have bids when we ever sell any city assets. And yet, in this particular thing, we're actually waiving a city asset, which is the actual note, without having any idea of whether it has any value, whether anyone else would perhaps purchase it, or whether we can even do what we're doing, since it is a city asset, we haven't put it out for bids. I happen to think that's a very valid point. But more importantly, I just don't understand. We've gone 13 years now biting the bullet on the fact that they haven't paid this note. I don't see what another 7 years is really going to make any impact to us one way or the other on the CDBG funds. And I just, in good conscience, cannot waive over almost $3 million for $1 million two payment without knowing. I was extremely upset that one of the principals said that it was not any of our business to know who the people involved were, because I think as public officials and dealing with public funds, we have every right to know who's involved in these deals. If I want to know who the principals are, I should be told who those principals are. I think it's inexcusable that anyone who come before this chamber or respond to the clerk's request for that information to say that it's not relevant. I think it's highly relevant. We need to know who these entities are. We need to know who would profit from this deal. We would need to have a fair market value of this asset, which we don't have. We have no idea what the ultimate outcome will be for those people who have been called investors, but I haven't seen from anything I saw that they were actually investors. Because an investor is someone who actually puts up money or capital in order to gain financial return. I for life, I can't imagine why anyone would have brought this deal to us. After 13 years of doing what's happening, after another 7 more years, I can't see what difference it makes at this point. And it seems like a very lousy bargain for the city as an official of the city, an elected official of the city, but more importantly, as someone who has paid my mortgage every month for 30 years, I don't understand it. So.
Councilman Lewis.
The comment I'd like to make tonight is, first off, I want to thank Mr. Ted Bernstein. I know he worked hard on this piece as far as some of the requests that I had made in trying to get those extra pieces onto the legislation and some of the amendments we made. So I do appreciate that, Mr. Bernstein. However, after last week's session and hearing everyone talk about it and hearing some of the feedback, and then actually after my phone blowing up all week long with the opinions of citizens of not one who's in the positive of this. There's no written anywhere, there's no comment, there's absolutely no stance anywhere in the community that I can see of anyone that's favoring this deal. So after reevaluating it, looking it over, and hearing what some of my other council people have to say, and looking at the deal, I will also be changing my, what was favorable to the negative, and be voting no against this piece of legislation.
Councilman Peters.
I'm glad Mr. Benson has raised his hand. He had a good point, Mr. Manson, and I think now is the time to call the mayor up. And,
Mr. Peters?
go ahead.
I wanted to do the same thing.
Go ahead.
We've heard from Mr. Gribble and we've heard from Mr. Eli a couple times. We've had a lot of discussion amongst ourselves. And we haven't heard from the administration for a while, like the mayor feels on this. You proposed it in the beginning, and I just want to hear from you again.
Sure. This is a deal that we brought forward to City Council because we're concerned about our community block grant dollars for 2019, when there's a large balloon payment. We're trying to protect the city from having to give up their community block grant dollars for 2 years. Now, this organization has only paid us since 1999 $850,000. If you think they're going to pay more than that in the next 6 years before this balloon payment's due, you're dead wrong. This is the best deal that we're going to get. And we worked very diligently and very hard on this deal. The $1.2 million is a guarantee. If they can execute it by next July, it goes up a little bit higher. If you choose not to do this, it's absolutely your choice. But we negotiated it so the city could be in a win position as much as we can be in a win position. They don't have to pay another dime today. Not another dime. If they sell it and they don't make the profit, we're still at zero. So we have negotiated this for the best interest of the city. And once, Mr. Lewis, once they talk to me and Ted, they're right on the same page with us. They don't understand it, and that's why you're getting calls. Ms. Quinessa Hampton, today, she gave us 5 names of people, and we turned every single one around once we explained it completely to them. So you either can get a zero amount, you can get $300,000 in the next 6 years, or you can get $1.25 million. The choice is yours.
Any other questions? Councilman Manson?
Yeah, question for the library.
Yes.
My question is based on what I just heard here. I thought I heard the mayor say that if they sell this, they get nothing. Can they sell this, let's just say we let this deal continue, and can they sell this without satisfying this? I'm not saying paying it all is satisfying it. This deal here may be satisfying. To me, this would be satisfying it if we approve it. But can they sell it without us supporting the sale?
I do not believe so, because we hold a second mortgage. We own the building also, but we have a mortgage on the leases and assignments, and I wasn't thinking of that question coming, but I don't think, who would buy it if we still have a second mortgage, I guess, is without reading, but I don't honestly know without going back there and reading it again.
Your opinion of they would have to satisfy
They'd have
us.
to-
We
I
would
think
have
they'd have
to- We would have to release them to sell it, or us, or.
Depends on what you're
I may
selling.
be speaking not properly legally, but I mean, the point I'm getting at is they can't sell it without satisfying our efforts.
Well, the question is, what are you selling? The running of the hotel?
Hotel.
We still own the real estate, so. And they have a first mortgage, so potentially we could be a kink in the wheel, but I haven't looked at it from that perspective. No one's ever brought up selling it right now. I think it would be difficult.
Well, the reason I bring it up is, I mean, there is a good chance that this thing will sell at some point in time. I just wanted to get it clear whether or not they could sell without our approval. If they still owe us.
I don't think they can. Why do we have a second mortgage? I mean, if we take the money, if we make the deal and they're able to perform, then we release our mortgage and they can do whatever they want. There's some reason back in '99 that we have a mortgage on, in the sale and leaseback documents, it's structured the way they are, so that otherwise it's worthless.
Councilman Peters?
Mr. Manson, I'm not taking a side on this, but I didn't get that from what the mayor just said. I think that, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall her saying that if they sold it, we wouldn't get it done. She was saying to the fact, which I've said from the start on this thing, that, you know, if they walked away from this and didn't pay another dime of what they owe this grant, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sturgis, there's really basically nothing we could do except we could foreclose on them and we could sell it. Am I correct or not?
We already own the property.
But
We could foreclose. The first mortgage still would have to be taken care of, and we're,
that's my point.
yeah,
That's my point. And what I'm saying is,
and we don't get into
you
it.
know, this is what I've said, I'm voting for this. I'm sorry if it offends anybody, but I'm saying it's the best deal that we have before us. You know, the mayor, and Mr. Manson will vouch for me, I mean, she was adamantly against this every single year that she was on council, and she became mayor, and she did something about it, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not tooting her horn or anything. I think that I've said all along, the same thing applies to the Legends Golf Course. We have $7.5 million. If we could sell that tomorrow for $3.5 million, I'd vote to sell it, because we cannot afford the debt. And that's exactly what we're not going to be able to do in 2019. We're not going to be able to afford the balloon payment. And without this, we're going to be in, somebody's going to be in a world of hurt. And I know Mr. Slagle is going to argue, well, then we could sell it. But why do we even want to sell it? Why do we want any part of that, ever? And I'm sorry, that's just how I'm voting. So nothing's going to change my mind unless
Councilman Shelton?
Thank you. Mr. Sturgis, today.
Yes. That's fine. That's why I did stay over here.
Would you explain what assignment of rents and leases is?
It generally is a document that says if you're not as well, that we could go in and take over, us or the bank, and collect all the rents and leases because the first mortgage isn't getting satisfied or the second isn't getting satisfied. And everybody, not really you guys, but everybody banners about all this assignment of rents and leases, but you still have to run the place. So it's the same thing as Massillon Senior. The electric bill needs paid, the garbage bill needs paid, the employees need paid. Sure, it all sounds great for a city, but who's going to, we can't run a hotel. Well, I won't make other comments, but I mean, we've proven those things down the road. So yes, it exists, but you know, unless you bring in potentially receivers or someone to take it over and run it, that really doesn't do us a whole heck of a lot of good. Plus, the first mortgage still has to be paid,
Right.
whether we're running it or the bank or, you know, Massillon, Charles Street Associates, whoever it might be. So,
Well, the first mortgage is being paid, through the
Right.
operation, correct? I just bring that up because the mayor made it sound like if we don't take this deal, there's no chance of getting any money, and there is. If we decided to exercise that, we could in fact do that. So I don't want it to be said that we couldn't possibly get any other money out of this deal if they decided not to pay us another dime. In fact, they could have been doing this all along. You know, you can hire a management company to run
Right.
something like that. It's not unheard of in a non-recourse lease for that to happen. The problem is most of the non-recourse leases I've ever been associated with, the borrower has had to have somewhere between 40 and 60% of the money up front before a lender would consider that. We just happened years ago in '99 not to understand that concept and didn't insist on it then. And nobody ever questioned it then.
right.
So, you know, be that as it may, I mean, there are ways to get out of this, and there are ways to continue to get money, whether it's paid willingly, whether it's not.
I mean,
And because I'm gonna vote no, I mean, I ain't going to go along, but I'm just explaining, you know, kind of my reasoning or my thought process.
I'm sure there's an assignment of rents and leases in favor of the first mortgage holder that's in place from the original deal. Now, it may have been assigned to a different bank. In fact, answering the question, you know, that exists. I mean, that's a common practice in this type of development, whether you're a city or a bank. So, yeah, I thought there was.
Councilman Slater, you have a question?
Do we have any idea what the fair market value of this asset is? Have you seen any document that tells us whether it's worth $1 million or $5 million or $8 million?
One thing I've ever seen is what the auditor, the county auditor, has it valued on the tax duplicate. But in this day and age, that doesn't really mean anything to me. Plus, I'm not sure how it's broken down, so no.
Are there any more questions? Clerk, roll call, please.
Chopin,
No.
Cunningham Heatherly,
No.
Coulter,
No.
Hampton,
Yes.
Lewis,
No.
Hanson,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Skazin,
No.
and Slater.
No.